Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to Always Almost There, Day After Show Live. We're here today celebrating a milestone for the band Goose as they performed at Madison Square Garden last night for the first time as part of an incredible Soulshine hurricane relief benefit show. And I'm here joined by my two good friends, Garrett and Matt. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing just fine. A little tired. Last night ended around 4 this morning, but it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, it was a hell of a night. And we have an intern appearance. No, we have an intern appearance here from Josh. Garrett, how are you doing today?
I'm good. A little tired, but it was fun to wake up today and kind of read through the various boards and other social media platforms and rewatch some of the show. Really fun night. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, it was a hell of a night. Really, really special. But before we dive into the music, Matt, I know you had some background you wanted to share, especially about, kind of how this thing came together. So please.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people are familiar, but this show came out of a fundraiser Warren Haynes has been doing in Asheville, North Carolina, pretty much. I think the first one was like early 1990s, and called the Warren Haynes Christmas Jam. And yearly, it's usually a benefit for the Asheville area Habitat for Humanity. And there's actually a whole neighborhood in Asheville with a Warren Haynes Drive, and it has basically all the houses that one event has raised enough money to build, for homeless people. And this year, they were about a week away from announcing this year's Christmas Jam lineup. It's an event when I used to work for Warren that I believe the title was like event coordinator, and I did that from like maybe the 98 through the 2005 Christmas Jams, which saw it go from a bar to the Thomas Wolfe Auditorium to the Asheville Civic Center Arena, or whatever they're calling it now. And obviously they couldn't do that event this year because of the hurricanes, but needing to raise money for Asheville more than ever before, they tried to figure out how else they can do it, somewhere else basically. And then, one thing led to another. There was then another hurricane that Florida got impacted. And so it became a sort of wider fundraiser, but really that's kind of how this came together. In fact, I think they were actually toying with calling it Asheville Jam or something like that, something to nod to the Warren Haynes Christmas Jam side of it, but that settled on Soulshine, which I thought was appropriate. And I know in the lottery I was in, I won predicting that Soulshine would be the opening song of the entire event because I knew it was going to be too complicated to close with it. Too many people would have had to learn it.
Safe bet. Safe bet. That was great. Yeah, I was really excited getting in last night, seeing all these names on the bill, not just Goose, but all these bands and all the special guests that were on the table. Like, the possibilities were endless. And the fact that, it was supposed to be 4 hours straight of music ended up being almost 5. It was just an amazing, felt like an amazing celebration of community and, music and, this kind of the whole scene coming together, as well as, of course, being put on to support those people who were impacted by the hurricanes. But Garrett, how are you feeling pre-show and getting in there?
Yeah. So when this was first announced, it was like those Spotify when you take the algorithm and put it into something else, and it takes the API and makes like your own festival of what you listen to. This was everything I listened to just in one, so it was immediate purchase of a flight and a ticket, and then pre-show it was really cool. A lot of Goose fans we got together and had a nice little get together. Vibes were very, very high. Lots of people just getting to see each other for the first time in a minute, and just really excited about all the bands. I did the 2 nights a Dave Matthews Band before that were also like a little bit more subdued, but with some really cool guesting in there. So it was kind of building up to this big Sunday show. I was trying not to overhype it in my head, but it was really tough given the possibilities that could have come out of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so show kicks off, just after 7, a little bit of a video intro from Warren, and then Warren and Dave, as you said, Matt, opened the thing with a nice little acoustic Soulshine, which I thought was great. And then Goose comes out, and you can see from the first moments that they walk on that stage, like they're so excited. We saw a post from the band. Peter posted earlier in the day, like, seeing his first Fish show there, 15 years ago, and like just how excited they were to be playing on that stage, especially for Cotter, who like even 2 days ago, he was playing in a Led Zeppelin cover band at Nectar's, and he's been in this band for, just under a year now. And here he is, taking the stage at Madison Square Garden. So they all looked excited, but I felt that Cotter in particular just looked so excited and just so over the moon to be up on that stage. I don't know if you felt that vibe as well, Matt.
Yeah, I first of all, I was very impressed how when they came out, how much of the arena was excited for them. And even early into Arcadia, the first song, like they got like a crowd roar peak. And obviously, I'm curious, and we were discussing before the show whether they would do 2 songs and let one go for 25 minutes or, try to get 5-6 songs in there. And, the way they flowed into the guests, I thought was just perfect. They did 2 of their own and then brought out Derek for Hunger Sight. And then Derek and Susan. I mean, I thought they paced it really well, and they nailed their, them having to go 40 minutes past curfew and by 2 blocks of overtime was not on Goose because they nailed that 34-minute set in exactly 34 minutes.
Yeah, it was impressive for a band that we talk about a lot is not very good at time management. They were great last night. They came out there, they knew they had something to prove, they knew they had fans to convert. And so I thought Arcadia was going to be the closer of the set, but in hindsight, it makes sense to open, as their one song without a guest. And I love that it was like, a revolving door for the set. It's like, here's, Robert Randolph loved his, contributions to Give It Time. I thought that was really cool. Derek with Hunger Sight felt like an obvious choice. I thought maybe we were going to get Trey for that, but, they've done that before. So I love Derek putting a spin on it. My only takeaway from that is he needs to come back and do it again when they have 25 minutes.
Yeah,
play Hunger Sight.
I could always go for more Derek. He just, you hear that tone and that sound, and I could just live there.
Oh, I agree. First time he hit that like fill during the song, I was like, "Ooh." Garrett, what did you think the first couple of songs of the set?
Yeah, knew Arcadia was coming, knew it wasn't going to be a long jammed out version, but they did have a nice little chord progression in there.
Buffalo.
And then got right into the peaks, which a lot of the people around us that were not Goose fans, that was the first time that they perked up a bit toward at the peak at the end of Arcadia. Then Give It Time, really excited to see Give It Time come out. I was really hoping to hear it and to have Robert Randolph on it. It's already like a gospel-y song or church Goose. So to have the Robert Randolph flair on there was pretty cool. And then Hunger Sight was just really cool to have Derek on that, and was very excited for the Trey moment, after the second chorus, and he definitely he ripped into that, just like Radio City vibes all over again.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to hear one of the things that people were saying last night and today, like that the sound on the stream, especially during Goose's set, wasn't great. But Loomis knows what he's doing. Crushed the sound in the room last night. I mean, all night really, the sound was amazing, which I feel like might be difficult to do for a thing like this, where you have so many different people working different consoles out there and all the guests and everything. But I thought where I was on 109 side stage, like everything sounded great. So kudos to all the crews and various people who were working on last night and making it happen. So that was great.
Yeah, events like that are a ton of work. It's kind of nonstop. You usually get in early in the day, and then they're loading out bands while other bands are still playing. It gets pretty chaotic.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and you had for the first 3 bands, like they were all like sharing like gear and backline. Goose didn't really have any of their own stuff up there. Like Peter had a couple of his keyboards. But yeah, I think like Rick was playing a rented amp. They were on rented drums, like the whole thing. So it's cool to see, how they adjusted to such a short slot. And then you get Susan up to join Derek for Don't Do It, which was great. I felt like it took her a minute to find the harmony where she wanted around, Rick singing. But I think by the second verse, she found it and they crushed it. And again, just huge smiles on stage. It looked like Derek was really digging it as well. And yeah, I was a big fan of this rendition. Garrett, what did you think?
Yeah, no, Rick was very, very happy when I was watching it back today. Just you could just tell that it was a big moment for him.
Yeah.
The band just sounded really great on "Don't Do It." Susan's voice is incredible. Yeah, really, really fun cover, perfect cover for them to do together, and hopefully next time we get them on original like Arise or
Oh, that'd
something
be
like that.
amazing. Yeah. Oh, a rise with Susan and Derek would be incredible. You're right. Matt, what did you think of Don't Do It?
It was a perfect choice. The last Waltz tour had just done 3 shows in the New York City area, like 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago. So it felt like I'm sure a lot of people in the audience were at one of those. It's a band classic and easy sing along, and I love that Derek, Susan, Rick is kind of a relationship that started at Dead Ahead earlier this year, and
Oh, I forgot about
bucked
that.
after Dead Ahead, and now we're seeing how that's going to grow a little bit. And it's someday you will get your 30-minute Hunger site and Susan on a Goose original, no doubt, and you'll probably end up with Rick and or someone sitting in with Tedeschi Trucks Band someday down the road. That's how these things, always go.
That's awesome. Good point from Ryan Legvold. He did not have a mic, but yeah, during "Don't Do It," Cotter was singing his heart out, which was great. Loved seeing that. I also love that Cotter, came out in his whole outfit, with the hat and the vest, and it's like
The
it's
kimono.
MSG,
Yeah.
it's a benefit show. Like this is the kind of thing like it's like when Fish plays like on late night TV, like Fishman doesn't wear the muumuu. Like this is like no, like Cotter's like, yeah, we need to, there's new fans, people may not have heard Goose before, they don't know what to expect, and he's like, yeah, I'm coming out in hot, coming out in the outfit, which I loved. It's just hilarious.
Yeah. I need
Go
to find the picture somewhere, but someone took a screenshot and it just has Derek and Susan like dressed up so like nicely, and then Cotter right in the back with his raccoon cap and
Yeah.
vest on. It
There's
was
another
awesome.
one. There's another one during the way it is that someone posted. I forget who it was as well, but like it's like Dave singing in the front, and then Cotter's just in the back, like looking ridiculous. That's awesome. But again, this is one of the guests. Rick has talked a lot, especially recently, about how he's gotten way back into the Dave Matthews Band, and has been really excited about them. And so, they were all really excited to have Dave on stage there. Great cover choice. Also, just another familiar tune. Easy one they all knew because I know they didn't have a lot of time to practice stuff for this, so I feel like maybe could have gotten an original or a Dave song if they had more time to practice with each other. But I think the way it is was a fantastic choice, good way to close the set, and again familiar to the crowd, because one thing that Goose does so well are covers, and for an audience that doesn't know him as well, a great way to hook them in. Like I remember the choice of like playing Electric Avenue on the first night of Taboo's tour, and the crowd really got into that. So this way it is was a great choice, and again, just so much excitement from them. Dave seemed to be having a great time up there. He gave us a little Goose at the end, which was fun. But yeah, Matt, what did you think of the last song of Goose said?
I mean, I love the way it is. I love Hornsby's Scenes from the South Side album since I was a teenager, and all his early records. And then I think Garcia came on the third or fourth one. And I mean, having Dave Matthews from Charlottesville, Virginia, covering Bruce Hornsby from Virginia was also pretty fitting. And they, what my friend Mark and I were saying, if they do the way it is twice as fast as the tempo Hornsby does it and do it for 8 minutes, it really counts like a 15-minute version because everybody's playing twice as many notes as they would have otherwise. So it was another way to stretch out their time while not going over their 34-minute slot.
That's good. Garrett, what did you think?
Yeah, so Dave Matthews Band was my first like Goose. They were the first band that I was following around for years. Last night was my 96th time seeing them. So like to have someone that I've seen so many times sitting in with my new favorite band, it was a pretty special moment. And just I was on the side facing Dave. That Dave was like looking at Peter and Rick, and like just Dave was really happy the entire time, and to see him that joyful, like playing with another band, like my friend Benji was like, it was like Dave discovered a new toy that he like now has a new band to play with. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Dave Matthews Band getting like an Alpine Valley or Gorge opening slot next year, or if
could see
they
that.
wind up playing together again.
I would say I feel like just based on draw, I feel like Goose might be a bit big for that slot, but I think Arablo would be perfect for like a Gorge opening slot next Labor Day. But
Yeah, I could see Goose going for it though, because you get in front of a lot
Also
of
true.
fresh ears, you know.
Yeah.
And Dave, you know, I did I think it was maybe 2002. I was tour managing Warren, and we did a Government Mule opening for Dave tour, and he's a very engaged headliner. Like he introduces the opening acts every single night. He will sit in as he gets to know them over the course of the run. The other guys in the band are always game for sit-ins, and so it becomes pretty collaborative when you do shows with Dave. Like he's not just hiding in his bus or dressing room and you feel like you're in someone else's venue or tour. Like they get very engaged, very collaborative. The band's very friendly, you know. Though I could see them taking it even if they're a little too big for it in theory, just because I think they'd grow a lot and get a lot out of it, you know.
Yeah, and you know, playing the Gorge. Good point
Or
from
Alpine,
Andrew
then.
Sargent here. I actually forget what the new lyrics are, but there was a lyric change in the second verse of "Give It Time" last night. Got a new line. I don't remember exactly what the words were, but I remember that I liked it. So interesting to know. You know, we'll see. I know that you know he's kind of tweaked that song in a couple of ways since the spring. So curious to see what happens there. You know, if it comes back at Goosemas or New Year's, which I'm sure it will. See what happens with that there. And one last thing before we finish up with the Goose set. I thought it was funny that Peter had his guitar on stage because, you know, they had 35 minutes. There were no guitar songs in there. So I love that they took the time to set it up and everything for it to just, you know, be decorative. I wonder if there was another song that
You never know.
had like.
Or you never know when someone calls an audible and you got to be ready.
Yeah,
you know?
True. All right. Well, so yeah, Garrett, closing thoughts.
The one thing I do want to say is shout out to Andrew Getty. So I was in that arena for 3 nights. Fenton, Dave's lighting guy, is a very good lighting director. But Getty got a lot more out of that rig than I saw Fenton get out the other 2 nights. And also lots of people on the message boards and stuff are also like pretty blown away by what Getty did.
Did Fenton add anything between nights 1 and 2 and night 3? Did anything look different to you at all? I wasn't there.
It didn't look different to me. Yeah,
I didn't go the first 2 nights. My understanding was Fenton was overseeing the benefit show too, and so I didn't know if he was maybe taking other bands' lighting plots and making some adjustments to bring in something extra.
I figured, you know, based on how the way the evening went, I figured it was just like they're moving into, you know, Dave's setup.
Right.
That was already there. Like I figured they weren't going to take the time to, like I figured it was Dave's PA to, like, you know, their whole setup and kind of built around it at front of
Dave's PA stayed in front of house. I mean, it's all the same gear and company that Dead and Company and Bob Weir used from the West Coast. So it was a lot of familiar faces and stuff there as far as that goes.
Great. So from there, you know, we're going to talk about the rest of the show here. Obviously, that brings us to the conclusion of Goose, but we're going to spend some time talking about everything else that happened because why not? It was cool. So from there, we get a little acoustic interlude as things get ready for Warren Haynes' band. Derek, Susan, and Warren, 700 Houses, which was nice. And then, you know, we'll talk about the Warren Haynes band set as a whole. We get This Life as We Know It. Oh, sorry, Man in Motion with Trombone Shorty. This Life as We Know It with Robert Randolph. Shakedown Street with Joe Russo. These Changes with Derek. And then Russo back out for Whipping Post. Which was amazing. Whipping Post was one of my favorite moments of the night, just because I never got the opportunity to see the Allman Brothers live. And I know neither Warren nor Derek are original members of the band, but, you know, they were both in the band for a long time together. And, you know, both of their styles are very much that Allman sound. And I love Joe Russo so much. So I was really excited to get the opportunity to see Whipping Post here, which was sick. But Garrett, what did you think of, you know, the Warren Haynes set?
Really, really fun set. I don't catch Warren Haynes band or Government Mule a lot, but I really, really enjoyed what they did. The Robert Randolph set-in was really fun. Shakedown Street was interesting. I thought it was going to be like a Hey Pocky Way or an Iko Iko with the little jam they did in front. And then when they hit the Shakedown Street, though, like the whole crowd like really got into it. nobody knows when to actually woo during Shakedown Street, which was still confirmed last night.
Especially not last night's crowd.
Whoever does the lights for Warren Haynes band subscribes to the Tom Hamilton.
I don't know who's running lights for Warren. Actually.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought that
point.
was funny.
That was great. I've seen a lot of. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Matt. You're good.
I've seen a lot of different. I think I've seen every different Grateful Dead configuration possible do Shakedown Street in Madison Square Garden, from the Grateful Dead itself through, you tell me other ones further, the Dead and Company, and last night's held up with any of those. I mean, it was a phenomenal version. Warren, like going back to his days with the Q, the Phil Esch Quintet, like he sort of came up with his own version of the Shakedown tone, but he's kept his own version of that pretty consistent through these decades. So it's like, it's Warren Haynes Shakedown Street in a way. And I like that aspect to it. And it's funny what foggy memory can do, but you're right. These changes was in between it. In my mind, it segued into Whipping Post. And because I kept all night as I would see those guys like, man, Shakedown in the Whipping Post. That was just phenomenal. All night, but your Whipping Post was easily one of the highlights of the whole night for me. Modern day Allman Brothers never really played the Garden, not that I'm aware of. Not counting the Brothers 2014, and to me, I got into the Allman Brothers during the Warren Haynes, Alan Woody era, 1988, 89, 90s when I first got into it, and Kevin, who's also the new bass player in Government Mule, to me is the most authentic sound like Alan Woody bass player they've had yet, and so to hear Kevin doing the bass intro, Warren and Derek obviously is how I've been hearing Whipping Post, it seems like my whole life. And then with Joe Russo as just being a monstrous the second drummer. I mean, it was as close to an authentic Allman Brothers version of Whipping Post I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of fucking Whipping Post in my life.
No kidding, yeah.
Having worked almost 200 Allman Brothers shows, if not more.
Yeah.
And so it really was one of the probably top 3 highlights of the night for me, and I'm sure I'll name 10 top 3 highlights as I usually do. But
of course, as it should be.
But that was that kind of night. I mean, that's honestly that's the Christmas Jam spirit. Like that's just how it's why this goes back to, it really felt like they really captured the Christmas Jam vibe and moved it to New York, because this is what those nights feel like. You're an hour into the show and you're listing your 5 top 3 highlights already, and there's still 5 hours of music to go. 6, however much more. This was, I should point out. I was talking with Steph, who manages Warren backstage, and the Christmas Jam has never finished within curfew, ever, in the history of the event. It's always blown curfew, so it was only fitting they did it last night, too. But it was actually probably the earliest Christmas Jam has ever ended.
Only 11:45.
Right.
Yeah. I thought this was great, but for me, just like with the Derek and Hunger Site thing, I was like, I want more of this. Like I was sad that Whipping Post was the end of the set. I was like, man, like if they could play Elizabeth Reed right now, something like another Almonds tune, like with Derek and Russo together, like, that's my only gripe with an event like this, is the collaborations are so cool, but because there's so much music and so many people that they have to get across the stage, you lose out on, being able to have like, here's half an hour of Warren Haynes band with Derek Trucks and Russo. And before we move on from here, I also wanted to note, Warren did Shakedown Street with only one guitar, which doesn't, people don't do that very often.
Yeah.
You usually have someone doing the Jerry part, someone doing the Bobby part. So I thought that was interesting. And I think, as you mentioned, he has his own spin on that tone.
He's been doing the tune, I think, with this version of Warren Haynes band. I might have done it when I saw him at the Cap, or it might have been a different Grateful Dead tune. But there's always been a couple in his mix. And so, like even Government Mule, I think, has done a couple of one guitar Dead covers and things like that.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Garrett, any more thoughts on the Warren Haynes set before we talk about Angel from Montgomery?
No, I thought when Russo came and Derek came out, it was going to be Jessica, which would have been also pretty awesome. But I think the Whipping Post was the right move, and as Matt said, just incredible version. Really, really stellar. Highlight. Yeah.
I feel like they saved Jessica for when Chuck Leavell comes out and sits in, which makes sense, because you really need that level of piano playing to pull it off.
That's true. That is true.
Absolutely. So our second acoustic interlude here, I guess third if you count the opening, but you get Dave and Susan doing a really amazing rendition of Angel from Montgomery. That's a Tedeschi Trucks staple. one of the ones that doesn't need, much rehearsal from them in advance. But man, that was gorgeous. And I loved, there was one stage turnover where we didn't have any music in it, but I loved the use of the acoustic sets for the majority of the time. Keep us engaged a little bit while they're moving things around for the next band. What are you guys' thoughts?
It also fits, the Christmas jam historically runs like that, next to no changeovers.
Mm-hmm.
Put the acoustic X up front. There might be one changeover somewhere if there's a situation where they got to set up a whole new backline or something like that to do with Dave last night. But that is kind of in the spirit of it. Warren always opens his Christmas jam solo acoustic, before the first band comes on, and so people know to get it, which is good because it gets people in early. They don't want to miss what Warren does. Angel that was also easily top 3 highlight last night. Susan does always sing the hell out of it with her band. Of her do it sitting with Bobby. In every setting imaginable. John Prine tributes. When Tedeschi Trucks does it, they generally segue it right into Sugaree, which is usually pretty cool. I didn't think they would go there last night, but there was a minute I thought they might. That would have gotten a little long probably for 2 people. But she just, it just makes the hair stand up on my arms to hear her sing that song. It's just incredible. She really has taken ownership of it.
Agreed. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Garrett, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I've seen Dave do it solo. He did it at the Gorge 2015 as a request from a fan that was sick. And that was pretty incredible. I've seen Susan do it a bunch of times with Tedeschi Trucks band, but to hear them do it together was pretty special. And yeah, they blend so well together. Another highlight. They just kept coming last night. Every set had at least 2. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. And then we move into Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats. For me, so I'm gonna take a moment, and because we've been pretty much universally praising everything so far. I wasn't really a fan of this set. I have to say, I felt that not just because I was unfamiliar with Nathaniel Rateliff before, but I think there was so much of a collaborative spirit throughout the other stuff. Like, Warren had guests on almost every song. Goose had guests on almost every song. Nathaniel Rateliff played like 8 or 9 songs and only had guests on 2 of them. And so I felt as though it was more like, he's putting on a performance and like, his, Mavis Staples was amazing. So happy to see that. I'd never seen her play live before. And the closing song they did, SOB, with trombone shorty Robert Randolph and Ben Jaffe, was great. But I just felt overall, there were some people in the crowd for sure, a lot of people who were really into it. But I felt that this set was a little more out of place in this lineup. And I'm curious, Garrett, before we go to Matt, obviously with the more behind the scenes look, but Garrett, I'm curious what your thoughts on this were.
And I have to run after this, but gotta head to the airport and long flight. But
you're still here.
It was okay. I've seen people describe them as like a wedding band, like get the energy up and get excited, but there's no guests. At that point, we were waiting for Trey the entire night, so people were thinking, okay, maybe he'll come out here. Really only had the trombone shorty Ben Jaffe sit in, which was that SOB was very good. But the rest of it, it was pleasant, but I'm not going on Nathaniel Rateliff Night Sweats tour right now. The only thing that was interesting was that they had Mavis out. That was the only time she was out during the night and not during the wait later on.
Yeah.
Which was, So.
Matt.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, yeah. Garrett, thank you for coming. Glad you could make it.
Good to see you, Matt.
Yes. As I've worked and seen Nathaniel a couple of times in the past, and he is actually generally a pretty collaborative guy. Mm-hmm. So I was surprised there weren't more guests. I also knew Mavis was going to come out during his set. I was sort of hoping for a different song choice, like We Got Work to Do, or figured she might be on something by the band.
Yep.
I figured she would also be on the wait, but I don't know why she wasn't. But to be honest, at a show like this, when I'm attending and not working, and I know it's running nonstop, music after music after music for 5 hours straight, I need to pick a spot kind of like for my own set break.
This was your set break?
15 minutes. And in this case, it was so I can, Christmas jams are big family reunions for us. Like people you see once a year in random cities sort of all end up in the same place, like many festivals or fish, MSG kind of thing. Like,
Sure.
like it, even for us on the other side of the equation, like it is a chance for, seeing lots of people. And I've also just moved back to New York City. So I kind of use that as all right, I'm going to go have all my friend and family reunions around the venue. And try to kind of time it to get back in to watch when Mavis comes out. And so I was spending a lot of time doing that. Actually, I saw a bunch of the Goose guys during the beginning of Nathaniel's set, and they were on cloud nine, all of them to a T. Ben, Sam, I saw Jeff, I saw Cotter, saw Trevor, who was so proud to be wearing a Rangers jersey on stage at MSG. They were on cloud nine, and that was awesome to see. And I think we all know they'll be back there pretty soon, doing their own thing. So I kind of used a lot of the set for that, and then kind of started to pop out when Mavis came out and watched the end of it. I really did like that last song.
SOP.
It was fun. It gave me a bit of a Springsteen vibe, the way he was bouncing around the stage, and I love Springsteen, so that's definitely a compliment.
I definitely think if I had missed most of his set and caught the last few songs, I also probably would have enjoyed that one. But I felt like, it felt to me that the Warren sets and Goose sets were so good, but they were a little on the shorter side. And, Nathaniel still had 40 minutes. And for me, like, this would have been, you're looking at the clock, you're already 10 to 15 minutes behind schedule. You tell them to cut a couple songs.
Yep. They could have kept him to 30, I think.
Right. Or
even
with 30, but like I get giving him the bigger slot. Like I know he's a bigger artist, but like when you're behind schedule, and like I would understand if his set was all collaborations, like, you don't want to cut that kind of stuff. But if he's just playing songs on his own, I would have felt the same way about Goose from an outside perspective. Probably. Right. Like selfishly, I would have been like, let him play songs on their own, whatever.
Right.
But I think sacrificing those collaborations that we were getting that felt so meaningful to everybody involved, the Goose ones for them, and, getting to collaborate with these big names, the Warren and Derek getting to play together with Russo, like, and it just felt like, the Nathaniel Rateliff one, like he went on and was playing his show. But
maybe I didn't talk to the guys about, but maybe it's also, Warren, Derek, Dave, they all see that as they get a little bit of a 30 minutes downtime to prep for the big ending. Again, that's just a hunch and a guess, not any actual insight. I think that Nathaniel's set is likely when they made the decision, instead of cutting Nathaniel a couple of songs, we're just buying the overtime and let it play out the way it's supposed to play out. And if they would have had they would have had to cut Dave's songs at the end, finish by 11, then I think you got a case to be, hey, Nathaniel, that shouldn't have really gone on that long. But since they just bought the time, less of an issue for me, because no one lost time because Nathaniel's set felt a little long, but it did feel a little long. On the other hand, the crowd when I did pop out, I jumped up to 109 or 108 around then, and felt like people around me were way into it. So I was actually surprised, because I wasn't feeling the crowd underneath the stands or anything. The crowd didn't feel as loud during the beginning parts of the set. When I was out in the show, they felt way more engaged. So
there were definitely a lot of people who knew his music.
More than I expected. Same with Goose. I was really impressed with the Goose reaction and ovation, and
100%.
Felt like they had the room and belonged playing there on their own.
100%. So from there, we get a couple of tunes with Dave and Warren, Carolina in My Mind, and Southern Accents. From there, I felt, I enjoyed that a lot, but from there, I felt going from Nathaniel Rateliff into then, 20 or so minutes of just stage turnover with no music happening. I felt that was like, you had almost an hour of, for me, much less engaging content than like the first half had been nonstop. Like, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome.
Yeah. That lull that we were surprised. Like, why are they suddenly doing a full backline change?
Yeah. And as Garrett mentioned, we're like, where the hell is Trey? And so
that was
at
around the
least
time
during
also, they
this,
forget about Trey started becoming
yeah,
a common
but at
refrain.
least during this, I saw his tech Justin on stage, like tuning up the Languedoc, and I was
Right.
like, oh, he's here, thank God.
Right. I think I knew he was coming late, but I didn't really know an exact arrival time or anything like that. Certainly.
James Play said Trey was chilling on his couch until like 15 minutes before.
Yeah, it's nice when you can commute 2 subway stops to a show like that. So
Yeah.
I certainly appreciate.
I'm sure he took the subway too.
No, but he should have.
Would have been funny.
The pros of the subway is there's a lot less traffic. The cons is you get dumped in Penn Station. Not
Well, exactly.
MSG you can drive.
I think
car
if there was
services right
ever a
into
time that Trey
the
could commute to MSG on the subway for a gig without being recognized, it would have been that.
maybe.
Because everyone's in the venue.
Right.
You
It
know?
comes late. Right. A few people outside looking for tickets,
Yeah.
maybe. But
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so we get with Trey initially, we get Waste with just
Yep.
Trey and Dave.
Oh, I want to point out. Hold on. Southern
yeah.
Accents was a top 3 highlight for me. That's that like it represented. It was the song that represented Florida. Carolina represented the Carolinas. I thought it was a very clever 1-2 combo. And I mean, I love
Nice.
the Tom Petty version of it. Warren's covered it before. I feel like he's covered it with Grace Potter, and they've done some great versions of it. That comes to mind. But it's a gorgeous song. It's kind of a heart-wrenching song in a way for me, and I thought it was definitely one of the highlights, and kind of had me forget all about the long changeover that we just through.
Yeah, it was great, and I mean, and I love the Trey and Dave acoustic duo Waste. It's always been great.
That
and
was
the Wait,
wonderful.
Bringing out Nathaniel Rateliff and Susan again, and I was just like, "Where's Mavis? How are you gonna?"
I was surprised
bring
that Mavis
out?
wasn't on the round for the Wait. I was downstairs also at that point. It was so chaotic. I don't even know what happened to her.
It was late. Maybe she had to.
Yeah, and they had a lot of other people to get verses to. So that hadn't
exactly
done a lot of singing, and maybe Trombone Shorty's appearances were minimal. Robert was only on a few things. She was. She's 85. If she's good to come in and do one and go, then
great.
Then
and
we're
she crushed
have her come in and do the one. We just have anything.
Exactly.
Have anything you can see her do.
Exactly. And then we get the bulk of the Dave Matthews Band set. We get Pantala Naga Pampa. Sorry if I mispronounced that.
I wouldn't have pronounced it either, but I know Rapunzel.
Rapunzel. So much to say, too much. So damn lucky. Jimmy Thing Brickhouse. The Jimmy Thing Brickhouse with Trombone Shorty and Ben Jaffe again. This is fun. I'm not a huge Dave Matthews Band fan, but I enjoy it. This was.
I expected the songs like that. I expected it would be songs I know from the earlier part of his career. I love
the
that.
hits.
You're right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, he's got so many of them. He could probably, I'm sure that,
exactly. Yeah.
Every Night of the Garden had plenty of them, but So Much to Say I hadn't heard in a while. That's like an original Dave song for me that helped me get into Dave as this Jimmy thing. And, so I dug that run because it was all familiar to me. And I haven't really seen, I can't remember the last time I saw a Dave show, to be quite honest. It's been
I think there were a lot of people I talked to last night like, I haven't seen Dave in like 20 years.
That's kind of what it felt like. I don't think it's been 20, but maybe. It's a DMP at least. I feel like I've seen the End Friends or Dave and Tim maybe a little more.
Right.
More recently than the full band, but it had been a minute.
Yeah, and interesting to me also, I had looked when they were setting things up and I saw them, tuning Trey's guitar. They got Derek, they got Warren, there's an amp for Susan there. And I was like, where's Rick? I was one of the things I was really hoping that Rick was going to get a sit-in with Dave. Hopefully that's on the horizon in the future. Especially with last year you kind of had, you had Corey Long sit in with Dave Matthews Band at MSG. So I was hoping that, if it wasn't going to be able to fit in last night, maybe on one of the first 2 nights, because I know Rick was there. But got something to look forward to, hopefully down the line. It makes sense. I guess they were only having really, the featured guests for the musical sit-ins. At least,
right.
Warren,
there's just so much history between Warren, Trey, and Dave.
Exactly.
That
and I mean, so this is also interesting to note. This is Trey's first time sitting in with Dave Matthews Band since August of 2007.
Wow.
At SPAC when he did that was his first live appearance.
Right. That was the first
after getting clean. If anybody has not seen that version of Lie in Our Graves, it's on YouTube. The quality is absolutely horrendous, and it's one of my favorite solos that Trey has ever played.
It's awesome. I remember it.
There's so much emotion in his playing at that show. And so, I was thinking wow, personally, I was like, he should never play that song again. I was like, don't touch it. You're never going to be able to top that. such a special moment. But of course, it's Trey, and he crushed it last night.
And it's a fitting song for a guitar player. You know,
exactly.
It's got that outro that's just made for Treys and Warrens and someday Ricks of the world to.
Yeah, and Derek
you know,
too. Like, I said
Yep.
we were taking bets before the show, when we were at our little meetup thing. I figured Lion Our Graves was happening. Is it going to be Trey? Is it going to be Derek? Or is it going to be Rick? I figured it was 100% going to be one of the three of them. So excited that it was Trey. He crushed the solo. Get a little Wonderful Tonight outro. Cool. And then, loved the Melissa cover. You bring Warren and Derek back out. And as you said, so much history to that, that combination of Warren, Dave, and Trey. And having Derek in there was amazing.
It was a gorgeous version. And I say it a lot around Warren and Derek. Like, if it's up to them to play the Allman Brothers tunes, or they're just going to disappear, and they're all too good to disappear. And the Allman Brothers, because they always did the Beacon Theater thing. They did those month-long residencies at the Beacon Theater from 1995 or 6 to 2014 when they stopped playing. And so the Allman Brothers never really played the Garden. And so to get to hear these songs ringing out in the Garden and the like arena size sing-alongs, like those songs deserve that. And it just, like, every Allman Brothers song that came out last night, I just thought was just so special to hear. And Melissa's just, it's just a classic Greg Allman acoustic guitar heartbreaker tune. And it was wonderful hearing that, hearing Soulshine in the Garden and Whipping Post. I mean, I'm all about it. Those tunes don't get covered enough by enough people. And I hope Dave keeps doing it. I hope they all keep doing it, because these songs are too good to go away. And it felt special to hear it in the Garden. It really did.
Absolutely. And then you get Come Together to close. I was expecting this to be Where to Wait was going to be.
Right.
As the big closer with everybody singing. But this was cool. I thought it was funny having everybody from Goose on stage. There've been a few videos of them just kind of awkwardly dancing.
Those are some very funny videos, I have to say.
It's great. It's funny. You have Rick also looks kind of lost without a guitar in his hand. It's like,
yeah,
all
of them kind of don't know what to do with their hands, because they're usually holding or
playing,
on something, something like that, exactly. But
I felt at that point, you have so many people on stage, give Rick a guitar. You're not hearing everybody anyway. But it's the way these things go.
Willie Nelson does a thing like that, where he always has all the guests come out and sing around a mic or on harmonies on the the gospel outro stuff that he does at the end of his show, and it always does feel like, I've seen some amazingly talented musicians, just 5 people around a mic without instruments in their hands, playing that role, but usually it's in a moment where you're just so thrilled to be on stage with whoever else is up there that you don't really care whether you have a significant contribution or not, or if you're just adding to the vibe and the celebration of it. And again, seeing them getting ready and getting wrangled by Sam and everyone to go up for that moment, they were chomping at the bit to do it. So it just
was great.
It just felt that the same way a Christmas jam would end, just get everyone up there and do something everyone knows, whatever it may be. I thought it was a great song choice, actually. I wouldn't have expected to hear that Beatles cover at all last night. And so it fit it fit the theme. There was obviously a theme in this show of helping and, and charity. And I thought it was a great way to wrap it up.
100%. And Ramjet329 on Instagram points out, huge crowd pop for Goose when Dave announced them. And, he kind of acknowledged that. So, love, still all those hours later after they played, everyone's still really excited for Goose. And as you said, Matt, I don't think we're very far away from Goose playing this room themselves, which is obviously going to be amazing. People are like, oh man, I can't believe, they had so many guests for their first time playing the Garden. I'm like, they had 35 minutes as part of this amazing benefit concert. This is their first time playing the Garden, but this isn't their first full show at the Garden, right? That is going to be, whenever that is going to be incredible. It's going to be great. But I look forward to seeing from this, if there are any more, obviously, I'm sorry, not if there are any more. I'm sure there are more musical bonds between these guys and Goose, getting to hang out with all these people. And so I'm hoping to see, into 2025, some amazing sit-ins with other bands. Maybe we see, as we talked about earlier, like Arabella or Goose, being more involved with Dave Matthews Band, maybe some sit-ins with like Warren bands when they're in the area, or Tedeschi trucks, as you said. But the whole vibe of the night, to me, you know, the people on stage, like everyone was just so excited to be there. Such a joyful occasion, you know, obviously for relief for such, you know, an unfortunate, you know, hurricane or two that happened.
Yep.
But coming together to support all these people, joke on the encore. But coming together to support all these people, and everybody was just so excited to be there. Yeah, I can't wait to see the collaborations that come of this, and I'm grateful that I was able to be there last night.
Yeah, I think it was the perfect launching pad for them for their first garden show. I thought, I mean, I don't know how they could have handled that set any better. I really don't. I mean, you can, well, they could have just done a 25-minute this or that, and that probably would have pleased a ton of the fan base for them to just do
this
one.
This was better than that.
Rage, but I think this was better than that, because they, you know, these are how relationships grow. Like I said, how their relationship with Derek and Susan, starting at Dead Ahead, this has now grown another step, and now they're fermenting relationships with Dave, with Warren. You know, they already have one with Trey, as we know, and I mean, you know, I if my job was scripting Goose shows, I don't know how I could have come up with something any better than that. You know, the cover choices were both smart and made sense for the musicians they had coming up there, and they crushed them. And I'm saying that as not the biggest Goose fan in the world sitting
there you
here.
go.
So,
there you go.
You know,
good.
Still not 100% sold. So, you know,
we'll get you there. Well, Matt, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. Thanks for being on the pod today.
Definitely.
Really appreciate it. And thank you everybody for tuning in with us. This is it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, because Goosemas is coming up very fast. And I can't wait. It's in Charleston, December 13th and 14th. It's bingo. It's going to be exciting. We may have some special treats for you coming before then. I'm in the process of editing our fall tour recap, which will be out to you sometime in the next week when I can get through all of it, because it's a lot. And also, it is almost bracket season. So if you guys have not been keeping your Jam of the Year ranking lists updated all year, we're getting real nerdy here. We will be turning it around really quick after New Year's. So although we have 4 Goose shows left for the year, I highly recommend, if you want to get involved in the seeding process for this year's Jam of the Year bracket, put together a Nugs playlist, you know, start listening through the year. You know, I've been sharing mine. I'm sure Neil and some of the other guys from the pod and lots of other people in the community have been sharing theirs. If anyone's looking for a starting point or where to start listening, just head over to social media, you know, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram. They're everywhere. But we want as much involvement as possible in the seeding this year. So please help us get involved. It's going to be great. So looking forward to that. But again, Matt, thank you so much for being on this episode of Day After Show.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a fantastic week. Have a fantastic Thanksgiving for all you Americans. And we will see you very soon.